Prayer a little earlier. We who believe in God and trust in God, we have this hope that burns within our hearts. I was trying to reflect just a few days ago on what life must be like without the hope that the Christian has. And I know you can be technical and you can be academic and you can find all kinds of reasons to call the belief we have in God simplistic and of no consequence. But this is what sustains us. And I've been around long enough to visit the bedsides of those who did not have this hope, to hold their hands in the final moments as they sought for some platform to stand on. There is nothing that brings clarity to the mind like death. And that is why the Bible could say emphatically, "Blessed are the dead who die in the Lord." Ms. Vita had a close call a few weeks before her final passing. And I remember we stood in the hospital room and prayed for her. And the family members that were gathered there thought that this was it. But God kept her alive a little longer. And we thank God for every day she lived. So accept our sympathies and condolences from the Seventh-day Adventist Church. She was a valuable member of our church. Her memory remains with us. One day, by the grace of God, we believe we will meet her again. And until that day comes, I challenge all of you to be faithful to God, the one who sustains us. May God bless you. Thank you.
Ruth Vita Louise Frederick (nee Douglas) was born on Tuesday, the 2nd of February, 1932, and took her last breath early afternoon of Monday, 18th of September, 2003. I'm still settling her passing in my mind as I miss the daily reports from her caregivers or the marathon weekend cooking so she would have a variety of foods to eat. She lived for 33,467 days, or 91 years, 7 months, and 17 days. She enjoyed being in the land of the living, but knew that her body was worn and tired of the suffering. She marveled at the fact that she had lived longer than her maternal grandmother and her own mother, and we are thankful that her passing was peaceful. In the last 15 years or so, we started calling her Madame, in addition to Gangan and Nag Nag, when it was called for. There's a story behind that too, but I won't be dealing with that one. Over the last 10-12 years, Madame had several medical issues, some of which were death-threatening. However, she pulled through with medical care, prayer, and faith. We are thankful to all of those who made those journeys with us. In 2011, with one of the very serious medical situations, I knew that we needed to find a way to make her laugh. So I used various face apps on my iPad, and even though her pain was great, she would protest about these ugly pictures with a grin on her face. So it became a practice. If we were waiting 5 or 8 hours for a hospital bed, I would start taking Snapchat funny faces and tell her that I was going to use them at her funeral. She always protested and in the end had to always laugh as these were so funny. You see, laughter is one of the best medicines. She was resilient, as that R in her first name must stand for. Resilient to get back to being active, even if it meant she could only work in the yard for a few hours and then lay down and have her back rubbed for 3 to 4 hours to get relief. She kept going until one of the doctors at HSA told her that she was now an old person and that she must stop the hard work. She told him she didn't know how to stop the hard work, as that is what made her. That didn't stop the multitude of projects though, because she would hire guys off the street and have them with Emmy to do heavy work under her watchful direction while she sat in her white plastic chair. This would be hard work because it would vary from planting, digging, mixing soil, repainting her yard ornaments, etc. Determined to maintain her independence, she refused to leave her house when Hurricane Ivan hit. We kept in contact with her until the cell phones went dead. She was alone in the house when the roof blew off the garages and laundry room and parts of the house. She said it was like there were demons outside. She hid in the pantry closet in her kitchen, which was remarkably the safest place. Her house had to be rebuilt, and it was 3 years before we could fund it. But in April of 2008, she moved into her new home. She was resilient, got back to her feet while living with us until her home was ready. After she was back in her home, we started her Christmas dinner traditions on the porch at her house. We would enjoy traditional Cayman beef, turkey, and all the trimmings with Uncle Stanley and his family, and occasionally Hendrick's family would be visiting, so they would join in too. We had many laughs and made great memories. On Christmas Day, she looked forward to the Lions Club coming out to visit the elderly with a care package. She was so excited to see what they had given, no matter how simple or humble. She was appreciative of any gifts. She was also happy to share what she had with others. As children, Madame did not have birthday parties for us, and I was always a bit jealous as I would get invitation to the kids in Pease Bay and central Bodden town. But Madame, being very practical, would give me powder, socks, or soap to give as a present. I thought that was embarrassing, but that's the way she was. When Anya came along, of course, it was a good reason for birthday parties, and eventually she kind of hinted about one for herself. You see, she didn't always ask outright. It was more manipulative in that I would say which cake you would like for your birthday. Then she would say, no, I really don't want in a fuss. The next day I'd get a call, well, I think I want to ask this one for a slice. And then we'd have this one, and then this one, and then the next thing you know, it was quite a few people. So several sessions were done on the beach, and eventually we started doing restaurants. Anywhere that had rack of lamb was excellent for her. Even though she had so much trouble getting dentures from HSA Dental Clinic that were painful and ill-fitting, she stopped using them for a long time, but the smell of the rack of lamb was too much, and I took her to a private clinic to get new ones. One of her wishes was to go on a helicopter ride around Cayman, which we did for her 75th birthday. She enjoyed it so much and even convinced the pilot to fly by her house. She was able to get out to Stingray City and swim with the stingrays and go to the turtle farm. And she even got on the Good Mood swing and had a little swing on it. Going into the sea was a real favorite, but as she got weaker, it was a whole production to get her in the water. But once she was there, she really enjoyed it. And in these last months, just going to Burger King and getting French fries was an adventure for her. She had a smile that lit up her face. As a child growing up and hearing her stories, I can remember myself, what struck me was that my mother really wanted to be loved and to have her own love her back unconditionally. I knew that one of my lots in life would be to ensure she wanted for nothing and was happy. I could not fix the physical pain of osteoporosis, which went undiagnosed and treated for many years. In fact, it was only in 2021 that she was diagnosed and treatment started. I just wanted to make sure she was comfortable, safe, and happy. There's one kind of hilarious memory that sticks in my head, and this happened before Ivan. There was a mysterious situation of walking sounds happening in her house. Not even with faith in those years was she was still a bit superstitious. So around 2 a.m. one morning, we received a fairly calm phone call from her saying that we needed to come to her house immediately because there was a ghost in the house. Needless to say, we were not enthused about this, but I tried to convince her there was no such thing and that she was imagining it. That was not the correct response at all, so we drove to her place. We entered her bedroom, and sure enough, we heard it too. It really sounded like someone was walking on the ceiling. Being very practical, Hendrik and I assured her there was no ghost. There must be some explanation. So Hendrik went into the ceiling, and we found that where she could reach on the ceiling in the ladder, she had placed the Bible open to Psalm 23 and lit a lantern. Hendrik found the large land crab which had found its way into the ceiling of the house and was running around for whatever reason. How he got there, we don't know to this day, but he was removed. Madame took him outside and smashed him into smithereens, proclaiming that he won't ever do that to her or anyone again. I don't know if others experience this with their aging parents, but in Cayman, there's no shortage of advice for every medical issue or any problem under the sun. The possible remedy or treatment is always gleaned from they say or them people. I always pressed my mother for the real source of these sage advice she was receiving, but she couldn't say who these wise people were, giving her sometimes really oddball advice, some of which she would actually try. As I grew older, I realized that we should not rush to judge our parents and their behavior, because as children, we don't really fully understand their own generational trauma. None of us are perfect, so we learn to argue, but then forgive and move on. She would call at what was sometimes the oddest hour and have the oddest requests or realization to help with, or ask for help with heavy labor for one of her yard projects. When sometimes she would pick up the guys off the street and bring them in to do a day's job. If they sat down or were too slow, she would pay them off and tell them to go because they don't understand hard work. She was dogged and determined when she had an idea of how she wanted something done. She tried a sand yard. I had to back sand until it proved futile to have a white sand yard. She tried grass, but we had no water to water it in the dry season, so the nut grass took over. Many a summer, I was instructed to get out of bed at 4 a.m. or else to pull the nut grass in the front yard, and we had to do the beach as well to keep the burr grass away. There must have been a lesson in there somewhere, but for me, to this day, I am not an early riser. Growing up in Cayman, when she meant that she did not believe, at that time that she did, meant that she did not believe in wasting anything that could be reused or repurposed, as before we had recycling. She taught me to be resourceful and to figure out things for myself. As I grew older, she faced many more challenges. Despite this, she remained strong and resilient, always putting her family first. One of the things I admired most about my mother was her love for adventure and exploration. In the 1950s, she took that leap of faith and traveled to Europe as a young lady from the Caribbean. It was a bold and brave move for a woman of her time, but she was determined to see the world and experience different cultures. Throughout her life, my mother held on to faith. She believed in the promises of the Bible and found solace in knowing that the Lord would never forsake her, even when others did. She held on to the lessons taught by Miss Elsie, her guardian, who was strict and God-fearing. She instilled in her the values of discipline, a sense of right and wrong, and fairness. My mother's unwavering faith guided her through the darkest times and gave her strength to overcome any obstacles. Now, as we say goodbye to Madame, I want to honor her legacy of resilience, resourcefulness, and faith. She was a woman who faced hardships with grace and determination, never allowing them to define her. Her life serves as a reminder to all of us that no matter what challenges we face, we have within us the strength to overcome. Today, we celebrate the life of a remarkable woman who touched the lives of many. So, as we remember her, let us be inspired by her unwavering spirit and carry her memory in our hearts. Rest in peace, dear Madame. You will be forever missed, but your legacy will live on through us.
I met Miss Vita in 1988. I came to the Cayman Islands under a 2-year contract with the United Nations to work for the Water Authority. Shortly after I arrived, I met Julia. Julia became the love of my life, and as they say, the rest is history. Julia introduced me to Miss Vita, and she liked me right away. When I met Miss Vita, she already had lived a challenging life, and she would talk about that into great detail. The life story in the funeral program reflects her challenges. I did not always have the patience to listen to all the details, but as far as Miss Vita was concerned, every detail had to be shared, and you were not supposed to interrupt her. That is why Julie and I called her Madame Speaker. Her stories were a personal account of a young Caymanian woman who experienced Europe during the winter years. Just like I had decided to come to the Cayman Islands for work, and I trusted that it would work out all right for me, she had done the same some 35 years earlier by going to Europe upon invitation from a couple who she met at Pageant Beach and who decided that she was the right person to look after their baby. Her stories touched all aspects of her life and also the hardships she endured. These stories have given me a great deal of appreciation for her and also an understanding of the Cayman Islands, and that is why I feel so much at home here, because of how she shared her life and the history of the Cayman Islands. I always joked with Julia that I was Miss Vita's favorite son-in-law, as it seemed that I could get away with so much more than Julia. Vita loved me for who I was, and she saw that Julia and I were in a good and blessed relation. Vita was longing for a grandchild, and in 2000 her wish came through when Anya was born. She's Vita's only grandchild, and she loved her dearly. Miss Vita had a tradition of calling us every birthday to sing happy birthday. On birthdays and other special occasions, she also wrote up an elaborate card to make us feel special. She took great care in selecting the right card and had it written up many, many days in advance. Reflecting on her strong faith in God, she wrote in each card that she prayed that God would continue to bless us. Over the last few years, Miss Vita's health declined, but Julia's mission was to make sure that the quality of life was good until the very end. Miss Vita was admitted to Georgetown Hospital on Friday, 15th of September. When she came home on Sunday, the 17th of September, Julia and I silently realized that she had come home to die. Julia, Roger and I spent that last Sunday night with her, and she was in good spirits, as sick and worn out as she was. Sue helped us to make a handprint, and we had a lot of fun and we joked around. We did not realize this was the last time that we spent with Miss Vita, but that evening was special and touching. It was our farewell. Thank you, Miss Vita, for who you were and your unconditional love and appreciation for me.
Today, I pay tribute to a remarkable woman who has brought so much love and joy into my life. Gang Gang was not only my grandmother, but also my mentor, prayer warrior, and my biggest supporter. As her only grandchild, I was truly blessed to have shared such a special bond with her. From the moment I came into this world, Gang Gang showered me with love and affection. She would often recount the excitement she felt when she learned she was going to be a grandmother, and I believe that joy only grew with each passing day. Since I was the only grandchild, she called me her precious one and only. In those early years, she would read me countless stories, nurturing my love for reading and imagination. As I grew older, it became my turn to listen to Gang Gang's captivating tales of growing up in the Cayman of the 30s and 50s and her travels. It seemed that almost every adventure began with the words, "Well, when I was in Austria," and her stories painted vivid pictures in my mind, transporting me to far-off places and instilling in me a sense of wanderlust. Gang Gang's pride in me was unwavering. She supported me in every endeavor, attending almost every Christmas concert during my primary school years and cheering me on in my academic accomplishments. The bittersweet moments of leaving for university were made easier knowing that she believed in me and would cover me with prayers daily. One of my fondest memories is exploring Gang Gang's collection of old books. It was like stepping back in time, discovering hidden treasures and immersing myself in the stories of the past. Her seashell collection was equally impressive, and she always lit up when we brought out her shells from our beach adventures. She found joy in the simple pleasures of life, whether it was swimming, telling stories, taking pictures, enjoying a good meal, celebrating special occasions with her family, ensuring her yard and Roger's yard were well tended, or collecting endless empty bottles, boxes, used Christmas paper, and beautiful bows, because you never know when you're going to need one. Her counsel, prayers, and stories helped to shape me into the person I am today. I am eternally grateful that I had the opportunity to visit Gang Gang this past August to express my love and appreciation for her. Though it pains me to bid her farewell, I find comfort in the knowledge that she is no longer burdened by pain. Sleep peacefully, my dear Gang Gang, and until we meet again.
Today, I bid my mama farewell. Tribute from her son, Roger. With a heavy heart, from the moment I was born, she held me tight as she sensed that I would have challenges. Through sleepless nights, hospital visits, and countless tears, she was there to wipe away my worries, helping to calm my fears. She was determined to find answers and traveled to Jamaica when I was a little boy, searching for the truth. With my deafness identified, my mama did her best to get help from me. She never wavered, never lost hope or faith that I would be okay. She pushed me to learn as best I could, to find my own way and to live independently. With every sacrifice Mama made, I could feel her unwavering love for me. I thank her for everything, for all that she ever did for me. I know that she worried deep within her heart as she was concerned for my future when her time on this earth was done. My mama's love is a love that will endure, and with faith, I will continue to live on until it is my turn. I miss going to visit her and enjoying the endless supply of strawberry ice cream at her home. Those moments, so precious, are forever engraved in the depths of my heart. Though today I say goodbye with a broken heart, I know that on that happy resurrection day, we'll reunite, embrace, and never again be truly apart. So until that blessed day, when we meet again, I'll hold my mama close to my heart. She was my rock, my guiding light, forever in my thoughts, my mama, shining bright, the queen of my heart. From her loving son, Roger.
My sister and I were born to Edith Douglas. She was unable and unwilling to care for us, so Rita was raised by Elsa Bernard and family in Georgetown, and I was raised by our great-aunt Patty in Northside. Rita came to visit Northside when we were little children. I remember we played in the bush, smoked some plantain leaves in a homemade pipe, if I recall correctly. We didn't meet up again until I was in high school when I boarded with her at Elsa Bernard's house. By this time, Vita was working for the Turtle Cannon factory. Later, she worked at Pageant Beach. She was always a hard worker and bought herself a bicycle, which she graciously loaned to me sometimes. Once I left the Bernard's house, Vita and I didn't cross paths too often. Good food and excellent company. And Vita, as Madam Matriarch, sat at the head of the table and reigned supreme. I will never be able to make cranberry sauce again without thinking of her. I think she loved it because of the dash of orange liqueur I put it in. A secret ingredient we didn't tell her about. As the years went by, Vita struggled with health issues. She always bounced back, though, and never lost the will to live for her beautiful smile, which lit up her whole face. It was very hard to watch her slow deterioration during my weekly visits, but she was a fighter, and her determination to meet life's daily challenges was admirable. She was cared for so lovingly, not only by family, but by the caregivers I saw most frequently, Che and Jane. Rita, my sweet sister, your long battle is over, and suffering has come to an end. You leave a wonderful legacy behind in your children, granddaughter, and all the family that loved you so much. You have earned your rest. Sleep peacefully. Love always.
Good afternoon. You must forgive me, I just got a knee replacement, so I'm kind of slow on my right foot. I'm very honored and privileged to give a tribute this evening from the Seafarers. I remember when Miss Vita, that's a new name for me, Madame, Miss Vita, she had a sense of humor that outweighed anything that you can think about. And every time she came to the center, she would make everybody laugh. Me and Stanley, we have a little pact. As long as I'm president, he's going to be my vice president. So I told him, you got to live at least as long as Miss Vita. Can I ask the seafarers present, the widows of seafarers, and the adult children of seafarers, could you please stand? Maybe I should have asked the whole church to stand. It is our honor as the family of Miss Vita to pay tribute to the service of this woman to the Cayman Islands. We stand together this day in support of each other as we did so many years ago, in a time when sacrifice and duty to family and country were all we knew. We were young people together of a time long gone by. Miss Vita was a true Caymanian patriot, one who stepped up and took over when her spouse answered his call to the sea, when it was needed, as so many had done before her. She always said, "I was that which we were raised to be. I went where others feared to go, and did what others failed to do. I've seen the face of terror, felt the stinging cold of fear. I have cried, pained, and hoped. But most of all, I have lived times others would say were best forgotten. At least someday I will be able to say that I was proud of what I was, a seaman's wife." This afternoon, we honor our sister seafarer, Miss Vita, Madame, and extend our sincere sympathy to her family and friends. And regardless of what she might have told you, we know that the wife of a seafarer was very special, and never again will the world see such a group of women as these who took over as both mother and father, and at times even sailed with their spouses. Her service and dedication to family and country is an integral part of our nation's history. They saw what the Lord can do, his wonderful acts on the sea. He calms the storm, and the waves become quiet, and he brought them safe to the port they wanted. They must thank the Lord for his constant love. O Father, grant this family today and in the days hereafter peace and comfort in the glory of her service and steadfast dedication to her family, her faith, and her country, and in the knowledge that she rests with you, O Lord, our Maker and our Protector. This is Madame's last watch. It is told in the Bible that once the Lord was in the fisherman's boat, and a great storm came upon them, and the fishermen feared they would drown. The Lord said to them, "Have faith in me," and thus it was they had the faith to survive. This same situation was and is repeated each day in the life of a seafarer's family. No woman has ever been the wife of a seaman without knowing that each day could be the last. But no woman let these fears overcome her. She knew their Heavenly Father was beside them to help stand the watch and to plot the course. In Jonah chapter 2, verse 2, In my distress, I called to the Lord, and he answered me. As each day ended, women at home and at sea counted their blessings of a day well done and would fall to their knees in prayer in thanks and hope for tomorrow.
Oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice, 'cause you have led me through the fire, and in darkest nights you are close like no other. I've known you as a father, and I've known you as my friend, and I have lived in the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Oh, your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Yeah, yeah. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful. Yes, you have, God. And all my life you have been so, so very good. So with every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Oh, I will sing of the goodness of God.
Good evening to all. Thank you so much for being here. I'd like to thank those who have traveled from far afield, Hendrik's sister, and I'd like to thank Professor Jones for being here, and each and every one of you for making this special celebration even more special. We are here to gather to thank the Lord for providing us with the gift of Ruth, Vita, Louise, and enabling us to experience love beyond belief. In spite of challenge, she was a remarkable woman who contributed to family, community. She belongs to a special cadre of women who are disappearing from our community. Seafarers, wives, daughters of the sea, have experienced like none other. As you traverse Georgetown, as you gaze at that statue of woman, Caymanian woman, please remember that that statue represents Vita. The life journey, the footprints of Ruth, Vita, Louise, Frederick, nee Douglas. Ruth, Vita, Louise, Frederick, nee Douglas was born on Tuesday, the 2nd of February in 1932 as the first-born child of Edith Valda Douglas and a father who refused to accept or publicly acknowledge her as his offspring. Her mother, in turn, decided to name her newborn daughter after her father's wealthy family's daughters and one of their ships. And when she was born, her eyes were blue, so she became known as Blue Jane, even though later on her eyes turned brown. Edith, as a young woman who worked as a maid in the homes of the affluent in Georgetown and had no support from her baby's girl's father, found it unmanageable to take care of her daughter. A lady in the neighborhood decided that she would rescue this baby and raise her. This lady was Miss Louise Bernard, and Vita as toddler, and the little girl called her Attie. There was no formal adoption paperwork, as in those days, people who could not take care of their own children would just hand them over to family or close friends to raise. When Vita came to awareness of herself as she grew older and realized that she was in fact and in effect forsaken by both parents, she called Ms. Elsie her guardian. Ms. Elsie ensured that Vita had all the basics she needed as she grew up in Georgetown, and even sent her to the Miss Priscilla Godfrey's to learn to play the mandolin, which she enjoyed immensely. Vita's brother, John Stanley Douglas, was born to Edith about 3 years after she was born. Although he was also given away by Edith and lived in Northside, she was happy to have a blood relative she could openly call her own. John Stanley was her tribe. Around the age of 7, Vita went to the old schoolhouse on the waterfront that was across from what is now known as the Emsley Memorial Church. Her formal education ended there when she was about 14 years old. She recalled strict lessons from Teacher Hill. Those were the days when you walked to school barefoot and went for a swim in Hogstye Bay afterwards. Ms. Elsie worked as a cook in the commissioner's house at the time, and Vita had many stories to tell of her experiences during that period, especially about the Bernard's donkey that somehow came to eat the grass in the commissioner's yard and then was chased home in the evening by Vita and her friends. The commissioner was not the commissioner of police. He was the representative of the Crown in England and represented the governor who was domiciled at that time in Jamaica. As a teen, a Chapel Church of God missionary known as Sister Glassman offered her the opportunity to go to Triple C High School. When it started, Vita wrestled with the decision of whether she could manage going to high school with no other monetary support or whether she should use her ambitious streak to make some money so she would be independent. She declined the offer and decided to learn how to make sisal slippers and bags to sell. Sisal, a plant that you could extract, dry, and make utensils and other articles. This was hard work, but she persisted because now she could start her little savings and purchase little personal things that young ladies needed. Sister Glassman continued to be supportive and enjoyed recording Vita working the sisal with her still camera and her movie camera. Sadly, in later years, when Vita asked for those pictorial records, they were reported as lost. Vita enjoyed it when her brother came to Georgetown on his way to see or to visit. They spent time together and had some good laughs together. They were tribe. Vita ended her sisal-making venture to become a nanny, taking care of children, including the then commissioner's children. Miss Elsie had a lovely 2-story home, which was used as a guest house in Georgetown, situated partially where the Bay Harbor Center is presently located. Many people from Cayman Brac and the eastern districts would stay there if they had extensive business in Georgetown and young men waiting to catch a ship with national bulk carriers. Vita, a beautiful young lady, would meet many young men at the guest house who wanted to catch her eye. But Miss Elsie was strict and watched like a hawk, so there was little chance for any of them to succeed. But one day, this handsome young man from Bodden town showed up and charmed her. She recalled that they would sit in the swing on the upstairs porch, looking out to the sea and talking for hours. Miss Elsie would check on them frequently, as she was not enthused. This was Leroy Frederick. He was waiting to fly out for his next trip to sea. They wrote letters to each other over several years, and when he returned home, he would make